Hi, this is Rebecca with the Sustainable Sanitation Solution. Right now, I'm going to show you the first 4 steps of assembling and sewing one of our universal shields. Partially finished shields are transported to Ghana in bundles and given to our menstrual health education partners. They distribute partially finished shields at health education seminars with schoolgirls, young women, older women, and school health education program coordinators. We frequently have tables set up showing different menstrual health management products. If a girl or woman elects to begin using shields, they're given one of your partially finished shields, a needle and thread, and are taught how to finish sewing it. They take ownership of the finished product. They know how valuable a sustainable menstrual health management solution will be to their education and their future. Our first step is to take an already paired cotton shield set with right sides together. If you have a gridded mat, it helps to lay it out so that the center of the shield is on a central line. Then take your pre-cut PUL. You'll see that it has 2 sides, a matte side, which is soft, and a shiny side, which is quite slick and smooth. Place it shiny side down on top of your fabric. Make sure that the edges aren't curling and that the PUL lays flat. Now you want to center it on the cotton shield. You can use a hem gauge if you wish to measure the width of the pocket end. We're at about 2.5 on this end and 2.5 on this end. We'll make sure everything is centered so that when it comes time to do the initial sewing, all 3 layers can be caught as we sew along the edge. We'll use 2 pins to secure all 3 layers of material. We now need to take one end of the cotton shield, and we'll call this our top. We need to fold down each side of the cotton 1/4 inch and secure it with 2 pins. This will create a finished opening when we do the initial sewing, turning, and pressing. I have finger pressed the first side of the cotton and flipped my shield over to the reverse side to press the other end. A simple finger pressing is more than sufficient to make sure that you have a flattened edge ready for sewing. I'll insert the final pin through all 4 layers of fabric. If you are assembling multiple shields at home, it's helpful to complete this process in an assembly line fashion. Cut out as many shields as you would like to make. Get yourself a stack of PUL strips ready to apply, and then complete the pinning on your stack of shields. I have my stacks here. I've completed the process for one here, and now I'll stack it here. Once I have all of the pinning completed for all of the shields I would like to make, I'll take them over to my sewing machine and do the initial stitching for all of them. I have my stack of pinned shields ready to be sewn. I'll take my first one and line it up with my presser foot to sew a narrow 1/4 inch seam. I'll start at the top right corner where I've pinned down the ends of the cotton shield to make what will become a nice finished opening. I have my machine loaded with white thread, and we ask that you please not use too small of a stitch. I have mine set to just above a 3. I'm going to begin by back stitching up to the finished edge, and then I'll continue stitching forwards down the outside perimeter of the shield, around the wings, down to the other end, and back up to our finished edge, our top. I will also back stitch here. When you get to this second curve on the first side, it's very helpful to use two hands, one here and one here, to hold the PUL in place as the fabric is pulled through. I've now come to my first corner. I'm at the bottom edge of the shield. I'm going to take a couple more stitches to get the needle down to about 1/4 inch from the bottom. I'm going to leave my needle in, raise my presser foot, and pivot the shield. When I lower my presser foot, it should be exactly in line with the bottom edge of the shield. I'll continue down this bottom and do the same thing where I leave the needle in the corner and then pivot the fabric to continue stitching 1/4 inch from this next edge. I've now sewn a narrow 1/4 inch seam all the way around the outside edge of our shield. I'm coming back to the beginning, so I'll just continue by straight stitching all the way to the end and then back stitching to secure the stitches. If you're concerned at all about the quality of the stitching on the curves, please do go back and make it as even as possible. Once you've sewn your stack with this initial 1/4 inch seam, you can then clip in the corners to make sure that there's no unnecessary pulling when you turn. 2 or 3 clips should do the trick. I've now removed my pins. I've clipped my curves and the corners at the end. It's now time to turn and press. When turning your shields, it's very helpful to have a stick, like a chopstick, or you can use scissors, or even the handle of a long spoon to press out your corners and the wings. I'll insert this through the end of my shield and I'll run it alongside the seam to push those seams out. We want them nice and tight. I've pushed out those end corners and now I'm running my stick along the inside seam. It's extremely helpful as you push out the seam if you can see some of the stitching. Don't worry, it won't show in the finished product, but this helps us to get a nice tight seam. Additionally, as you push out the seam from inside, finger press as you go. This will help keep your hard work in place. Our shields are turned and ready for pressing. When you heat your iron, try to keep it between a 3 and a 4. We don't want to melt the PUL, which is the plastic waterproof layer. We'll start at the end where we have a closed end, and we'll start ironing and pressing out those seams as we go. I like to wet my fingers so there's a little bit of friction so that I can roll the fabric between my fingers and get those seams nice and tight. The finger pressing did part of the work, but it will take a little bit more effort to keep those seams tight as we press the entire shield. Please notice we have nice flat curves all the way around the wings. When you get to the end, make sure that you tuck your pre-turned edges in and any threads that might be poking out. I've reached the end of my pressing. All of my edges are nice and straight, evenly curved, and pressed out to the fullest extent. No stitching is showing, but the seams are nice and tight. I've come to the end where I'll double check that my initial finger pressing for this open end is still even and that we have 90-degree angled corners. With the shields pressed, nice tight seams, even curves, and straight edges, the shields are ready to go to Ghana for distribution. Thank you so much for donating your time, goods, and talent to this critical project. By supplying girls and women in Ghana with washable, reusable hygiene products, we provide them with a sustainable hygiene solution that keeps them in school, allows them to maintain a job, and to care for their families.